was in front of Godfred, and you now quite be for one sunny, Hannah all the latest update in our Jesus and go be subscribing like in a share money as you the any binti. Yes, already in fan in Chimney and Candle and the Enchirmo. At the far a year CG and a Godfred, damn case, in Sembibri because a year the suspended Chief Justice Akofa Godfred, damn say unnamed being a lawyer. And man, because as you speaking of, and first in the dia and CG no, and can a lawyer bear the attorney general, but you see, or ordinary person, but you're suspending as a Chief Justice. So also a couple non cast lawyer, or couple lawyers also. I go for beer right now as we speaking of Ghana Legal Council for the ascension. I just said in the case I could do because of a year on the at force in case na a jackpa a day home video audio recording between phone conversation Godfred Dame and a jackpa I just say no more for coin beer source and a biomet my day and the at force at to prison. I just said nay I was pa bra a yes audio neighbor because as a lawyer our Saba Bay Attorney General, you are there for justice. You are there because of Ghana. Now, Sequoia, and I said, a year there. Godfred Dame, Quine Bisuno, I say he was there because of MPP. Now, so no Attorney General for Ghana. Also, now quite before. So, as you speak, a trial, in semi-bria Babon, a trial judge, a catcher and say, case with ye. When you home free case with him, just no evidence no marking people and a year at the Gitamo colonel could have evidence in India and couldn't quit things in Chichimu.
Make case in the way you make case, the Supreme Court referred some lawyers to the General Legal Council, right? Well, then there is the Kofi Atanle case. Look, the cases are many. It's a tried principle. It's even one that you don't need to cite any authority, you don't need to mention. Lawyers all understand that, hey,
you don't joke with the judge.
Once the conduct is found to appear to breach the ethics, the judge should simply pass it on to the General Legal Council. It's like what Eduji said earlier on. Godfred Dame was, untouchable. Yeah, he's the president's darling because he will do a lot of dirty stuff for the president, right? So that was it. So he had the ear of the president. People around knew that, hey, don't touch Godfred Dame. If you touch Godfred Dame, it was tantamount to touching a Kufuado. And, as I said earlier on, a lot of the time you find public officers take decisions based on their stomachs. And I'm like, no, why would you do that? That's why, for me, I went to law school. Earlier on, as I told you, my first degree is in business. By level 300, it was clear to me that, no, I would not make a typical employee do this, and I just do it. Of course, I obey rules as a lawyer, but certain things, when the thing is not right, I basically was looking for a situation where if I feel this is not right, I will push it to the end. And so you are likely to get fired every day. So go to a profession where you don't need somebody to employ you. Once, you understand the law, you can operate on your own, of course, subject to the rules. So that is why we should stop. It was so clear that this matter had to go to the General Legal Council whilst we were, in the previous administration. But Charlie, people looked the other way because they didn't want to offend Ekufuado. I see why once again, the good people of Ghana saw through it. I said, okay, now we will show you where power lies. And then we gave them a very humiliating defeat, right? So that is it. And you even remember that, look, even in that very case, the trial judge advised Godfred Dame to stay away from the case. After the tape was admitted into evidence, the trial judge said she was advising Godfred Dame to stay away from the case. Godfred Dame ignored her and kept coming to the court and kept participating in the trial. Can you imagine? You ask ADG or ask ma'am, when the trial judge tells you, cancel this case, please don't come here again. Let your colleagues in your law firm or the Attorney General's chambers conduct the case. Come on, unless you are not a practitioner. A judge, it's not even a subtle cue. Not one that maybe you say the language is not clear. This one, when you read the ruling, it was very clear. The judge was very clear that Godfred Dame should stay away. Godfred Dame ignored her. Okay. And that should tell you the kind of influence was.
I saw that you intervened when the issue came by saying that Godfred said the medical report was to satisfy a particular end. That's not the case.
Well,
I was involved in that matter with my senior Dr. Bassett Torkornoo. Look, it was a very simple thing. Godfred was traveling, and for fear that Richard Jakpa will come and testify and cross-examined, he wanted Jakpa to frame up the story in a particular way that implicates Atuforsen. And so if you listen to the audio recording, the whole idea for the medical report was to delay the trial, to allow him to travel and come back and do the cross-examination and elicit particular answers from Richard Jakpa. That is
he had a tight schedule. He had to deal with that.
So that is how witness tampering operates. Look, I've always maintained that in good conscience, Godfred Yebu-Adame, if he's a Catholic, should get a Roman father and possibly do a confession and ask for forgiveness of sin.
What do you mean?
You don't know the conspiracy that Godfred built to put Atuforsen in jail at all costs. It's a painful episode, and that should never happen again. Look, I don't care whether you are NDC or MPP. Look, per our rules of engagement, we are supposed to provide representation to anybody, provided it does not offend the rules. That is our calling. So it matters not.
Okay.
But where an attorney general, and that is why we say that prosecution is a public service. It is different from persecution. If it is only prosecution, and the prosecutor's code of conduct is that don't do anything to secure conviction at all costs.
Yes.
Because you are providing a public service. Follow the ethical rules, present your case, and let the judge decide what you want. Recently, my Lord Justice Akabuafo, in a recent Court of Appeal decision, where a young man was convicted, spent some years in prison, only for the matter to come to the Court of Appeal, and it turned out that, look, there was no evidence linking the guy to the crime. But this guy had been convicted and spent. So my Lord Akabuafo took time to elaborate what prosecutors and investigators should do so that they don't put innocent people in prison. Because sometimes by the time the appeal is heard, the person would have lost everything he's worked for in life. We don't want that kind of scenario or situation again. And that is why I strongly believe, it doesn't matter who you, the Attorney General, is. If you are not following the rules, because you see, I always say this, and anytime I met police officers in court, you know what I usually tell them? I say, look, in my almost 12 years of practice, I've represented a lot of police officers. So you, a police officer, tomorrow, God forbid, you can be the subject matter of criminal investigation. It had happened. I've represented police officers in court. You understand? So I always tell them that, look, deal with fellow countrymen with a certain human face, so that tomorrow, if the same rules apply to you, you will not be found wanted. The same thing applies to prosecutors. Let us all be fair in our dealings with fellow countrymen. That's all that I say. As for the rest of the petition, I think I've seen Richard Jakpa. He appears not to be happy with the petition to the General Legal Council.
Why is that?
Because on his Facebook page, I saw him raise serious issues that he believes that he has his own plan for this matter, and that he believes that the petitioner is quote unquote becoming a busybody.
Oh, but this one is a civil one. It's without prejudice, even civil. It's without prejudice to any criminal action.
No, he's not even talking about. I don't know what his plans are, but if you look at his Facebook comment, you can see that he's not pleased, with whoever it is that is before the General Legal Council, because it appears he himself wants to be the one to petition as far as this matter
so this
is concerned.
Is more like preempting plans.
And he, I think he has some reasonable suspicion that no, it may be a sinister, so that if the matter goes either way, maybe Godfred may end up, escaping from the what is required by law, because he definitely appears not to be happy with this whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so Kesi, so finally, yes, so you see, it's based on these very damning statements, right? A serious indictment on the justice system, that you find the decision by Chief Justice Torkornoo to engage Godfred not appropriate. I mean, that one we have to be very clear.
Why is that?
A man, we've just recounted all the things, so I don't need to repeat. A man who has said all these things, a man who seeks to undermine the justice system, then a suspended Chief Justice goes to engage him. I mean, what kind of country is this?
But it's well within
that means the
right
only lawyer in this country.
It's well within her right to do
Oh
it.
no, it's not every right.
She decided that this is the lawyer she wants.
It's not every right that you exercise. It's not every right that you exercise. Sometimes you look at the public interest and then you forgo certain rights. It's not every right. What's the thing? Those with the Bible. I think the last time I quoted the matter of 1 Corinthians 6, right? That area onwards, where they say, the Bible says, everything is permissible. Everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial.
That's morality. That's morality.
Okay, today you can say that's morality. Why go to morality. Find out tomorrow? Yes, even granted. Why are the churches full? Because people ascribe to a certain religious code. So you haven't shut down my argument when you say it's morality. A society without morals, what would it be?
When it comes to law, I mean, a legal right, it is a legal right that she exercised. Then, I mean, nothing can clog that right of hers.
Look, even to become a judge, he stated that you are talking about morality. He stated that moral turpitude. So you see, it's not everything that's only about crime specific.
But
to be appointed
going for a lawyer is an exercise of discretion. Whether you want to go with quarters A or quarters B, irrespective of the public opinion.
Well, I'm at Godfred himself has been responding to this argument of he representing the Torkornoo, her ladyship, and he says that position of the optics is baseless and completely unfounded, because his involvement goes beyond Justice Torkornoo as an individual, and also the fact that it's about challenging the unconstitutional manner in which he says this petition process has been handled. That's what he said. I just want to put it on.
Before my senior Martin comes in, let's look at these two scenarios. So Godfred is lawyer for Vincent Assefuah. So they first brought an application. In Relief 1, they say that Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice, was not notified prior to the President sending or consulting the Council of State. That's the claim. Now, the claim of not being notified requires personal knowledge. So once that issue came up, some of us said, on what basis did Vincent Assefuah get this privileged information that the President has not consulted Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice? So then it created an impression of some communication between the plaintiff and Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice. Not long, there was a letter now from the Chief Justice herself asking the President to furnish her a copy of the letter so she can, as it were, put in a response. So already right from the beginning, the impression has already been created by way of conduct that there's some kind of communication between lawyers for Vincent Assefuah himself, and now suspended Chief Justice. Now that matter goes in and it fails. Only for her ladyship, the Chief Justice, now suspended, to formally come before the courts. Now gets represented by the same lawyer for Vincent Assefuah. And like you pointed out, it's about the optics. Me, where I sit here, that I will not say that food should be taken from the mouth of a colleague lawyer. No, this is what we do for living. And so now that he's back into private practice, he needs to make a living. I will not say who should be his client or who should not. But you see, we are working out the optics. Look, the head of the judiciary, right, gets represented by the immediate Attorney General. At the time when there have been serious questions about, the public, the verdict is out there in the public.
I was for reading and say, Yasuma, just in Guasia, Kesi, and I Godfred Dummy. Rebecca, Quine Bisono, Witty, in Sema Edujitamaklu, any Martin Pebu, in some kind of person, which I say, we need right. The credibility and integrity, I say, into unfair draining yedruma. Call case we already know. Near ma aba found home, time. Ka case very sensitive Ghana for any DH, or think I'll back it off. The normal one for between my as a client, I could deal amongst some more fine because a lawyer they so did. You may be seen a man sky at all. Now, so the sensitive Ghana for any DH and the chum free home because right now, no case crowd Ghana legal cancer or crampodada. In a sensitive case like this, or more a Martin Pebune, Edogitamaklu, or mooning the intia. The suspended Chief Justice because he in Sakio, you are suspended. If say, probably be na say, undi boni be abesa be Chief Justice, and then no, Tamano Chief Justice no. Godfred Dami case we buy, you are there for the as justice munina chief and no. In that case, be see aba under your watch. Punishment be ambo. No be it ma ko ye BBC as a lawyer. Now no be far plans on bet you be atum. Why a chief a justice munina chief no one can wasam oh we be on tea e be okay we jama Ghana legal council for mundi or masam fine. Na se obi we this in sem hunu sebe. No as I could find us on by your lawyer Emma obi na we chief justice munina chief. How? And the man I could dream. So, how? Because no, you are training when you are henny. Not training when you are henny. No, be a boo intentia. Not I can find no boo intention, so obey your lawyer. How? So, am I like in same be and machi and cheddar and tassel? Because punishment no crown we did no cause autonomy cases so because one sem order that one say uko choose no as a lawyer no in semi brine bafa Godfred dam ho na man for a petition a Ghana legal council for some for mona sim freedom as case number because at first no na cases now the name fine home but Chief Justice as I found the that means the way no home from so mistake be a one my mistake one Kesi pa so what see in semi course to forcing and a year or no Attorney General now. You see try judge or not case in the catcher a Godfred Dami say on training home free case no on training on detaching on free case and yes still no yes or then echo court any day anytime on form when you want respect is our decision no anke wasen ko twene ho free sa case no so anko si hwe. So as you speak in the a man for the gear no more the ye Godfred dame chese this trouble the air barber rich no na wasam se Ghana pa se the isi akoyanim in terms of democracy ya practice more 32 years and counting na se e ba ne se yen nyina chief justice currently under the republic na se ne lawyer ni dia na chese wasam ase attend training no e ho kakakra chese very very serious. So right now no you heard the Ghana Legal Council for no so no omode ho update be ba se be punish no say you be suspended as a lawyer and as a business we don't know, so we are waiting for that punishment. And also punishment ba say be this some sanity be some credibility be be break the judiciary, because judiciary already no Ghana for do dona shadan jindi dada as the GD the fit world judiciary mono apart from kakra, so we need someone who is credible. Na it might be pija and no na say akofa yen suspending chief justice yen sake chief justice akofa we nyina ba just to sanitize the system so na be judiciary no a bit my strong. I don't know how sense be bria just a pro bono MPP for any abre omomti committee so ye adwuma no be a petition we are no petition, but already no we are then yes our acting CJ, so we need to find delay the haban person we be bit my. Yes, if there was a child between a bit my actually so a deep one in Quandia. So leave moon those people no moon nim yansan sin a bino. Yeah, a binding him yansa pa when you yansa is a cadol and be do a beard. No, the yansa mood door and your papa on it trim, not like other people. We have a subscribe next shit, pneumonia said in your bintia for once, you know, go a beer.